TTB Music Podcast.
I'm just admiring your Christmas lights. You know it is bad luck to leave them up this late.
Well, they've been up since last Christmas.
It's when you gave me your heart.
Oh.
Spoilers.
Wham bam, thank you, ma'am.
The very next day he took it away.
Yeah.
Anyway, how have you been? It's New Year! Woo! 2020! New decade! New year!
Brexiters.
Oh, yeah, that too.
No free movement of the people.
So in this post-Brexit second decade of Come Taste the Band,
Yes.
how are we feeling?
We can celebrate Europe.
Great.
Now they're in the final countdown.
It's going to be like this all year, folks.
No, that's it. That's my.
That's it. Oh, is that? We're done.
That's all my jokes for the
That's
year.
the puns.
Done. Yeah.
The puns are over.
Puns are over.
Okay.
So we're back. And we're going to try and do more podcasts this year than last year, which, to be honest, probably won't be that difficult.
We were just tired.
Yeah. So was the listener. But anyway, we're back to usual in the fact that our first album is a mixture of some album reviews plus a overview of the BBC Sounds of Top 5. We'll cover that at the end of the podcast, but we start off with 3 album reviews. So Pet Shop Boys Hotspot, Halsy Manic, and Attendant Ana, Julliet.
Excellent.
So we start with what I believe is the 4th Pet Shop Boys album we've reviewed on this podcast.
Is it? Crikey.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I have a feeling it could actually be the 5th, but no, I think 4th is right.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably, unless it was a soundtrack.
Right.
Was there a soundtrack?
There might be a soundtrack or a ballet or something in there, but yeah.
Yeah. But actual album.
Album.
I believe this is
okay.
the 4th.
Interesting then. That being the case, because this is the 3rd in a supposed trilogy of albums with Stuart Price.
Yes.
Who got hold of the Pet Shop Boys and did a synth Rick Rubin on them, you know what I mean, when they left Parlophone. And their last Parlophone album, of course, which was in that count out of 4, was, I think, the most comparable to this one in terms of the commercial release and some of the sounds within. I can go into that in a minute. Do you want to?
No, please.
No, okay. Shall I carry on then?
Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Pet Shop Boys, Hotspot. This is an album I approached with a little bit of caution because I really enjoyed the previous 2 albums, the previous 2 parts of this supposed trilogy. So Electric and Super, and there was a good, I felt, momentum building in terms of the production, in terms of the electronica, in terms of the themes. I thought Electric had a kind of a sort of an overarching 80s theme to it, whereas Super was obviously more 90s, which I think continues here to an extent. In fact, I think both those things distill into this album. But this album actually feels like the first sort of first sort of more mainstream Pet Shop Boys release for some time. And I think that's reflected potentially in the chart positions and reviews, which have actually, across the board, been positively good.
Okay.
So obviously people like it. And it is more typical of what you think of when you think of Pet Shop Boys, I guess. But my trepidation was also around some of the lead singles, which, I'll be honest with you, Dreamland,
Yes.
I didn't like initially. Admittedly, it has grown, but I found it I'm so in terms of a lead single. And similarly, they also pre-released Burning the Heather as well ahead of Christmas. And again, all right, interesting collaboration with Bernard Butler, Suede, X-Way
Yeah.
fame on there. But again, I was, it's a great album track, but I'm not so sure about, Anyway, so I was a little bit sceptical. So, and I think I still am a little bit. I still thought this album still quite hasn't settled with me yet. But I do really like some of the stuff on here, particularly, and this has been described by some people as their Berlin album, as the majority of it
sure.
got in Berlin. And hence the comparison with Elysium, which is the LA album, I guess. I do really like the references to Berlin. I like the album when it is more in a sort of electronica territory. Tracks like the slower tracks, like "You Are the One" and "Hoping for a Miracle," I actually enjoyed much more than "Burning the Heather." Tracks like "Will o' the Wisp," "Wedding in Berlin," and "I Don't Want to," and particularly the last one of those. And in fact, on the last one of those, again, we mentioned Berlin and the Berlin album concept. Obviously, comes from Bowie. I felt it was very Bowie-esque. Actually, I don't want to go out. I don't want to stay in. Obviously, around that famous lyric of his. So there's some things on here I really like, but overall, if I'm really honest, it's still settling with me. Now, it could come back in 6 months' time. I'll love it, but for now, in terms of sort of vis-a-vis as a PSP fan, as a pet head, this is obviously it's up there, but it's not up there with some of the more recent stuff. And I shall pause for breath because I really want to hear your review of Monkey Business.
I'm not even going anywhere near Monkey Business. So as you say, it's the third, supposedly, of trilogy, and I too also certainly liked Electric and didn't mind Super. I thought both certainly had more good going for them than bad. And when this album kicks off with Will o' the Wisp, I was momentarily optimistic about this record too, because I think Will o' the Wisp is a cracking track.
Yeah, agree.
Unfortunately, straight after that, I was.
It's a grabber.
For You Are the One, and then things got worse because then goes into Happy People with Neil doing his and doing that talky singy thing that I do.
He does the talky thing. I also like the Happy House though. The ding 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 ding. That's my area.
Yeah. And I was thinking, oh Jesus. And then actually, you then get to Dreamland, which similarly, it's with Years and Years, isn't it? Auto-tune effects ahoy. It's been played to death so much on Radio 2 when it came out that it's kind of worn me down to the point where I'm like, it's all right.
Yeah, I worry I feel the same way.
Yeah. Monkey Business hasn't worn me down. Despite the fact I've heard that a lot as well, I still think it's crap. Although it's not even in the same league of crap as Wedding in Berlin.
Oh, I like Wedding in Berlin.
Well, no, you said.
Yeah.
I think it's truly, truly awful.
I don't know. For me, it feels a bit tacked on. I think that's the other thing about this album. The last two albums with Stuart Price felt very much had a big beginning, middle, and end.
Yes.
Burning the Heather and Wedding in Berlin feel almost like a coda. It's almost like, the sequencing of an album, as we've discussed before, really, really important. I think it really works well up until track 8. Then Burning the Heather just sort of drops in, and I think the whole momentum of the album is lost, and then Wedding in Berlin doesn't really bring it back.
Yeah. But I also agree with you on I don't want to. That, along with Will o' the Wisp, were the tracks that I thought, yeah. Why couldn't we have more of this and less of the rest? This recaptured my original I don't like the Pet Shop Boys hat-wearing time, rather than my I'd warmed to the Pet Shop Boys and they were making some good music kind of thing. So very much a step backwards for me, this record.
But whereas, and I think what's quite interesting is from from a fan point of view, or certainly from a mainstream, playlisted on Radio 2 a lot, has sold very well. I think in a weird way, it's recaptured the public's imagination, and maybe there's a legacy thing going on now as well. They've got a greatest hits tour coming up.
Yes, I did read about that.
And someone wryly asked, "Oh, why are you having a greatest hits tour?" To which Neil Tennant replied, "Well, because we have greatest hits." Good.
That's a stupid question.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me, this album, it sort of sits nicely in the sort of middle of my own sort of thoughts on where their albums rank. But yeah, I hear exactly what you're saying, and I think do you think it is a grower? I'll stop there, and I shall listen to it again, no doubt. Very soon.
I'm sure you will.
I'm sure I will. Yeah, over and over again. I'll probably rank far higher in my end of year, depending on where this year goes, of course.
This is true. I suspect you'll have it higher up in your list than I will.
True.
Moving on to Halsy and an album called Manic. And this album, I first put this on last week. I kind of started off, and again I had that kind of, oh god, that feeling it sounds like could be one of a dozen other people, interchangeable kind of songstresses singing pop type thing. And I thought, this is a record that's going to bore me to tears. So that stuck with me for the first couple of tracks on the first listen. And I was walking along the road, and I really was just thinking, God, let's finish listening to the Pet Shop Boys album. And I've done this, and I was thinking, oh my God, I've picked some turkeys this time. But then suddenly everything changed, because Manic is a bit manic. In the fact that musically it goes all over the shop. You got pop, country folk, rock, electronica, bit of Beach Boys, Beatles-esque 60s pop. So this is a 45-minute record that twists and turns musically quite a lot, but still it still feels like a coherent musical statement, and certainly a lyrical statement. Again, it's a good old-fashioned breaking up with people kind of record. And by the time I listened to it the second time, I was suddenly thinking, you know what? This is a really good pop record. Like I said, I like the way it hangs together. The lyrics are quite funny. There's she has some guests on it, which are kind of featured in interludes.
Yeah.
2-minute interludes.
I quite like that.
Yeah. So you got a guy called Dominic, Alanis Morissette, and Sugar for a bit of Korean rap towards the end of the album. And part of me wanted those interludes to be slightly bigger, but by the same token, they still kind of worked the way they were slotted in the record. There's a lot of writers on the album, certainly on the musical side. I think she's written most of the lyrics, including some of our old friends. So our old mate Greg Kirsten, who cropped up a few times over last year's producing albums and writing stuff. Helps pen a couple of songs, including the very rocky 3 a.m. Of course, Ed Sheeran crops up. How could he not, frankly, yeah. Although it has to be the track that he's credited on, Still Learning, towards the end of the album, is arguably, I'd say, possibly the worst track on the record for me. Yeah, it just is.
I'd like to hear his version of Dreamland with the Pet Shop Boys.
But yes, I just, standout tracks for me are things like You Should Be Sad, 3 a.m, Graveyard, finally beautiful something.
Yes.
Finally beautiful stranger. Yeah, it's I just think a really good pop record.
Yeah, I think I went through a very similar experience, actually. First time I listened to this, I thought this is all over the shop. And, you know, it cuts across pop, R&B, guitars, the 60s generally.
Yes.
The 70s also. I think 3am. I think my little note here for 3am, I actually wrote 90s skater rock.
It is a bit, yeah.
You know. But actually, on second, third listening, you realise what a beautiful, heartfelt lyrics scatter across this album as well. Even in the opening track, Ashley, there's a wonderful lyric about, you know, heart being a muscle, but also being something you carry. You know.
Yes.
And you know, you can feel the heartbreak. I hate everybody. Track listing is in all capital letters,
yes,
which amused me. Killing Boys. Similar.
Yes, Killing Boys was good as well. Yeah,
really good.
Good track.
And you're right. Finally, in Beautiful Stranger, I think that and Ashley, which didn't catch me at the beginning, but I actually really liked on repeated listens.
Ditto. Right?
Yeah. So I think Ashley and finally Beautiful Stranger are two of the better tracks of the ones that I liked. I think as an album, you've covered most of it, but I think as an album, back to the sequencing, I think the second half flows better. I'm conscious most of those tracks I just mentioned are probably on the first half. I felt that the second half flowed better from around the sort of area of where are we? Where is this? The first interlude. You get past the first interlude and then into the sort of the second half of the album. I thought, yeah, and Alanis Morissette popping up was just a delight as well.
Yes, she's got her album herself coming out soon, I think.
Has she? You remember how raw her vocals are? She's not changed at all.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, really cool.
Still angst there.
Still angst.
Yeah.
Still angst there.
So.
You want to know.
Moving on to French indie. You know, we may have left Europe, but Europe has not left us.
Sadly.
So
in this case.
Yeah, so the
no, that's not fair.
Yeah, so the quirkily named Attendant Ana.
Yeah.
I haven't looked up where they came about that name, but anywho, French indie pop, Pete. Oui or no?
Nah. No, it's unfair because actually, again, on repeated listenings, I liked it more.
Yes.
So the lo-fi post-punk guitar. Certainly, the first few tracks just seem to go at pace and all in a sort of similar sort of vein. So that was difficult. The first listen until we got to From My Bruise. What's it called? From My Bruise.
Yes.
It suddenly goes quite interesting.
To an island, yeah.
Yeah, From My Bruise to an Island, and suddenly the album introduces a little bit of psychedelia in there as well, which is interesting. But then it goes back to the the speeding guitars and the fast moving tracks, which is okay. It's very reminiscent of something we'd hear in a little club, probably in North London. I don't know, just maybe we've been in little clubs in North London with these sort of bands.
So I also thought it had hints of Always as well.
Yes, that's probably why, because we've seen Always.
Yes,
in North London. So yeah.
In that kind of jangly indie
sort of
indie pop.
Exactly.
Kind of way.
So it's that jangly sort of indie pop with, you know, flavours of, you know, post-punk, or maybe it's Joy Division, or maybe it's something else. And it moves along at a great pace. And it sounds like a live recording at times as well. So it actually gives it quite a bit of atmosphere. You can imagine... I think that's what the point I'm trying to get at. I'm waffling there, but I'm getting too gradually, is listening to it, the second half of the album, took my foot tapping along. I actually felt I was at a gig.
Yes.
And that was no bad thing.
Yeah, I was... again, I suppose similar. I mean, I quite liked it. And I think there certainly could be a band to watch, if you like. And as you say, the first few tracks rattle along at a pace. and as you've sort of picked up on, the strength of them is also the weakness, in the sense of the fact that they're all based around quite simple, repetitive riffs that are arguably a bit too repetitive at times.
Yes.
And you want a bit more, a bit more, frankly.
A bit more. Something else.
Yeah, and then as you said, you kind of get that with suddenly you get to My Bruise to an Island, and then you've got this, kind of haunting bass and trumpet-led, moody piece. And one of the things I did like about the album, in fact, there's a lot of trumpet on it.
Yeah, actually. Yeah,
Not something you hear on your average indie pop album.
Yeah, bit jazzy.
Bit of trumpet. Quite a lot of trumpet. From the opening trap down the hill onwards. And also, I think it peters out towards the end, but I really liked Enter My Body Lilith as well.
Yeah, I've written that one down.
Which was also a track that stood out for me on the album.
Do you understand from earlier in the album as well? Those are the two things I wrote down in terms of tracks.
But yes, I think, dare I say, the first solid of the year.
Yeah,
for me.
Definitely. That's a solid.
Yeah, but certainly one a band to possibly keep an eye on.
Solid.
For reference.
There you go. On the notes.
So, moving on to the BBC Sounds of. The top 5 in reverse order were Inhaler, Joy Crooks, Young Blood, Easy Life, and Celeste. My first thoughts when I saw this list was pleased that the top 5 actually had a couple of bands in it.
Yeah.
For a change, because we've had quite a lack of bands featuring in the list over the last few years. It's tended to just be solo performers. So that was immediately, I was thinking, oh, that's good. And then I listened to Easy Life and realised they were shit. It's like, what do a bunch of white guys who've spent a lot of time listening to R&B and rap over the last 10 years sound like if they form a band heavily influenced by that? This is the answer. Easy Life. I wasn't impressed. Similarly, Joy Crooks kind of washed over me. Quite a nice voice, but it wasn't really the thing there for me. The other three I all thought were interesting in different ways. Inhaler with Junior Bono are a quite nice little indie pop band.
Yeah.
There's a couple of decent tracks.
I agree, actually.
A couple of tracks. Even though I was thinking, Christ, he even sounds like Bono. The start.
It works, though.
I was thinking, oh, it's going to annoy me. But then, you got like Honest Face and Ice Cream Sundae, songs like that. And I thought, actually, it's all right.
Yeah.
Not bad at all.
I really like the track We Have to Move On.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
So I was thinking, actually, yeah, that's good. I'm glad that a actual rock band has made the list. Young Blood, who is probably the most well-known, I suppose, of the people on the list, in the fact that he's been around for a couple of years and has been one of these artists that's worked with quite a lot of other artists, including Halsy, in fact. And again, he's actually a very interesting artist, musically, eclectic, lyrically.
I agree with that.
Very, very funny. There's a song called Parents, which is definitely worth checking out lyrically, which is very funny. So yeah, I think I actually kind of thought he was going to be the person that would win it this year because of that. But yes, it's again, I don't think you're ever going to be bored by a Young Blood track.
No.
You might like it or hate it, but I think he's definitely somebody that will actually challenge you musically. And the winner, Celeste, lovely voice. Definitely on the jazzier side of the kind of R&B spectrum, which is quite nice for a change. Currently getting played to death on Radio 2, actually, with a song called Stop the Flame.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is that one.
Which is actually, I would say, probably not very representative of quite a lot of the stuff, which is a bit more chilled, a bit more kind of laid back and falling more into that kind of quieter Macy Gray type vibe.
Yes.
But certainly a nice voice. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind to agree with much of what you said. What might break the habit? Inhaler, you've said everything. I think that they're a strong contender for me. I like Joy Crooks. It's not my thing, but I thought it was okay. It was listenable. I was tapping my foot along to a track called Early. Youngblood, I see what you mean in terms of the sort of humour and the intelligence of the lyrics and so on. But for me, it wasn't so much. It didn't really quite hit with me for whatever reason. Easy Life, catchy modern pop, but completely agreed. Celeste, very strong vocals, very soulful, very emotionally driven. I really like that. So I think probably deserved winner overall. I'd put her at number one for sure. I'd probably have put Inhaler a bit higher.
Yeah, so would I.
And the rest I'm not really strongly feel yay or nay about.
Not a naysayer, is a yaysayer.
There's a yaysayer. Very good. Hey. What happened to them?
Still about.
Are they?
Yeah. There's a single out in the last year.
Oh, really? Well, there you go. Now I know.
And that's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Ah.
We're done.
Oh, we're back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle. Back under 30 minutes.
Wonderful.
Rock and roll.
Perfect. Right. Best album? Are we going to do that?
Halsy for me.
Obviously, I'm going to say Hotspot by the Pet Shop Boys, but Halsy's a strong contender.
Yeah.